So first things first, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
It's very good to hear. So where I would like to start is what is it like now? I think your first single came out around 2014. What is this? Has it been like now that the album is finally out, your debut album? It's was that a big kind of milestone to reach for you?
Yeah, it was. It's something that I have been working towards this whole time. And I've been working on the album for about 4 years. So a lot of time and care has gone into it. So it is a big milestone.
What this might sound silly, but why is a debut album so important?
Well, it's just how most people, I don't know, for me, it's not more an album doesn't feel I think it's how like you kind of introduce yourself to a lot of people. A lot of people don't really think an artist is established until they have an album. So it's kind of an opportunity to show what you're capable of, I think.
But I do think we do live in a society with a lot of modern technology, social media. We have streaming services these days, and you've done really well with the EPs that you've released. So, do you see a shift in that mindset in a way where people, on the one hand, you can release singles if you want to, but also if you want to, you can focus on an album?
Yeah, for sure. Because also, the way that people listen to music, like you said, has changed, and
Mm.
you don't have to buy a whole CD or a vinyl anymore. You can just listen to singles all day if you want to. And sometimes I go through phases of listening to music like that. So yeah, it's certainly less important now.
Because one thing I found interesting when listening to your debut album, it does feel very cohesive. So was that by design?
Thank you. It was a little bit intentional, but also I didn't, the only kind of parameters I set for myself when I was making it was that I really liked the idea of having things that sound like angel choirs and monster trucks, which is like beautiful vocal samples and then more abrasive, distorted textures as well to create some contrast. So I'm glad that it sounds cohesive.
And you say you started 4 years ago, or it took you about 4 years to write the album. Do you remember what kind of the starting point was? What the first batch of ideas was?
The
Were
oldest song on the album is Obsessed.
okay.
So that is, yeah, that's the oldest one. And I think that when I listen to it, I can hear that my voice sounds younger in it.
Do you remember the mindset you were in when you wrote that song?
Mm, not really.
Okay. Because when I said cohesive, I also mean in terms of the lyrics and kind of somewhat the subject matter that you talk about or sing about. And one thing was wondering is whether this collection of songs all kind of uh, refer to the same period of time, or is it memories from all over your life, so to say?
Um, I mean, it is quite spread out, it's not like over those 4 years I was writing about 1 year.
Okay.
I was just kind of writing what felt true at the time.
What felt true then? Well, what was it? Because one of the things, well, the album title "Butterfly Blue" kind of alludes to it, but it's a sense of metamorphosis. So what felt true to you as you were working on this album?
I find that quite hard to answer because, like I said, when I'm writing songs, I don't sit down to write about a particular subject matter.
Sure.
And I think that the idea of metamorphosis, even though I love that idea, and I find it like an incredible part of nature, it wasn't really an intentional metaphor with
Okay.
the album. I think that I have grown a lot in those last 4 years. And I'm sure that the music naturally reflects that, but I'm not quite sure how to dissect that just yet because
Sure.
I'm still kind of in that change, but I do feel like I've become more confident and more sure of myself in that time.
Yeah, let me phrase it a little bit differently then. How, has your songwriting approach changed at all over the last couple of years, and the way you approach songs, both from a productional standpoint as well as a lyrical standpoint?
Um, I think that because I have the luxury of time and also the luxury of being able to work on music at home, when I go into the studio with another person, there's less pressure to have a song pre-written or, to necessarily bring a finished idea to them. So it means that I can be a lot more like playful and experimental when I'm working with other producers. And it also means that when I'm at home, I can stay up really late and work on ideas that may not ever turn into something or might not have a very clear path of how they'll become a song. So I think it just means that, yeah, I can play with different sounds a lot more. And that to me is a part of the songwriting process because I look at the production and the song
Sure.
as like one thing.
Can you share maybe one thing that you've learned productionally over the past couple of years that you apply to the album?
Well, my favorite thing about using Ableton is the way that I can record my voice humming or just singing gibberish into the session. And then I can go, I really like that melody, or I can go, I'm not obsessed with this, but maybe if I pitch it up or reverse it or sample the vocal with a MIDI splicer, then I can create a new thing out of it.
Mm.
And that's my favorite part of the process.
Right. Well, one thing I hear sometimes from artists, and I don't know if the same is true for you, but they say when they have those initial vocal melodies, and then as you mentioned, they kind of talk gibberish or it's kind of stream of consciousness type stuff, just as a placeholder in a way. But usually there's certain phrases in there that kind of end up being kind of a key part of the song. Has that been the case for you as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of a specific example, but definitely. Or you follow vowel sounds that sound right in the phrase, and then you kind of work back from there. It's really helpful if you're like, I don't know what to do, then you can like you can find clues in there or like create some parameters for yourself. Like, okay, it has to end in an oo sound. So let's work from there and see what happens.
Well, that's an interesting part because in terms of vocals, sometimes it has to fit kind of the music at that point. So how do you feel about lyric writing? Do you enjoy it, the storytelling aspect of it, or is it very arduous? Do you have to kind of?
I do enjoy it, but and I think it's probably what I'm best at, but it's difficult because like I have such a high standard and I don't always have anything to say or anything interesting to say, in my opinion, at least. So I love lyric writing and I care about it so much, but it's like a very fickle thing. And whereas production, I always am in the mood to play on my computer and make sounds. But then when it comes to putting words to it, I'm like, oh, I just don't have anything to say. Like, I feel like I've said all these things before and it's just like, yeah, it's exciting when you write a poem or some lyrics that you love, but it doesn't happen every time.
Well, can you share one of those moments for this album cycle then where you kind of were struggling perhaps a bit and then something just kind of popped in, or so maybe a bit of lyric or an idea?
Yeah. What's a good example? So when I was writing To You, the chorus was really easy and I recorded that straight away, the holding on to you. But then I spent so many days trying to write the verses and it felt impossible. Like I spent so many hours on it that I'm surprised that I still like the song at all. But then the way that it ended up working was we ended up changing the chords for the verse and then that opened up different melodies and lyrics. But what else? I'm most proud of the lyrics Mm, I really like the lyrics in Heart Guitar. There's a verse that like, well, both of the first two verses I think are really nice um, examples of songwriting where you can paint a picture.
Sure.
And not that I think that good lyrics always have to be in that style, but it's when it's done properly, it's one of my favorite lyric writing styles.
And I wrote down the line, you used to give me butterflies just because it had the word butterflies in it in terms of the album title. Was that a thought that there are butterflies have these multiple interpretations or meanings, or is that now, am I overthinking it?
Well, it's true. I think I just love butterflies so much, and I don't know, I just always end up talking about them or like making them wriggle their way into things. But I chose the album name when I wrote the Butterfly Blues song, which was the last song on the album. When I finished that, then the album finally felt like it was clicking into place and it just felt right. Because, like you said, like there are butterflies mentioned in all these other lyrics. So, oh, sorry about my turning off then. Yeah, like you said, like there's butterflies in all other lyrics. And so when the last song came together, it felt like a nice way of summing it up.
I thought the last song was very interesting, both the way you use words and kind of use the in the chorus and also the sonic build-up in a sense. So what was the mindset with that song? What was the aim, so to say?
What was the aim? I think I just wanted to, with the production, I just wanted to kind of capture the feeling of a really sad lullaby. So that one I made with Alice Ivy, who's an amazing producer and really good friend of mine. And we recorded it all like very late in the night / early in the morning at her studio. And all those vocals are from like 2 a.m. And I think that like suits the feeling of the song really well. And yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you always have kind of productional ideas and that comes easier than lyrics. So, and what you now mentioned, being in the studio late at night, are you a studio rat, so to say, that you spend a lot of time just tinkering with all kinds of sounds and everything?
Yes and no. So basically I have a little studio in my bedroom. And it's very simple. It's just like a MIDI keyboard, a Mellotron synth, my laptop, and 2 little Genelec speakers. And I have some guitars, but I can't really play them, and an interface and a microphone. And so like when I'm tinkering, it's usually just on beats that I'm not very good at finishing ideas. So I'll spend a lot of time tinkering and then I have to bring it to someone else to get their perspective and help me finish it often. So yeah, I'll stay up pretty late, like just humming into my microphone. And that's kind of the extent of it. And then when I'm in the studio with the collaborator, I just like to be really involved in the production, like just because I feel quite bored if I'm not. Yeah.
So are you kind of envisioning yourself doing the whole process by yourself at some point, or do you enjoy that kind of collaboration with somebody else?
I think at some point I would love to do it all by myself. And originally that was my dream for the album, but then I realized like that's kind of a disservice to the album. Not that I'm not a good producer, but it would take forever, first of all. Like I said, I get distracted so easily. And secondly, like I'm surrounded by and like privileged enough to call myself friends with some of my favorite producers and instrumentalists and engineers in the world. So it would be such a wasted opportunity to not spend time with them and have their perspectives and their knowledge and experience and soak all of that up.
Right. And you also had the privilege to work, I think, with one of your sort of childhood heroes, Azealia Banks. So how did that come together? Did you, as you were writing that song, did you kind of know you wanted to try and get her on it?
Yeah, so that song started as, I don't know, it's a demo I've had for about 3 years. Pre-COVID, I did a writing session in London, and that Surprise Me demo was born. And it was amazing and addictive to listen to, but very repetitive. And I always felt like it needed the energy of a rapper to kind of lift it up at the end. But then COVID happened and I was working on other songs and I kind of forgot about it for a bit. And then when it came to finishing the album, I was working on it again. But separate story is that I've been a fan of Azealia Banks for a really, really long time. A really big fan. And then a year or two ago, she did a live stream and she was playing my song Charlie in it and being like, this is this girl Mallrat. She has some really good music. So that was in the back of my mind. And then when I came back to working on Surprise Me, she was at the top of my wish list for people that would sound amazing on the song. So I just messaged her on Instagram and I said, I have a song that I think you would sound really good on. Would you like to hear it? And she said yes, and then just happened from there.
Did you have the chance to meet her, or was it because of all the things that were going on in the world all online?
Yeah, it was all online. We haven't met yet, but we've like texted and messaged heaps, and I think she's really, really cool.
That's very good to hear. Going back to the lyrics a little bit, because one thing I've kind of, I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems like you're quite direct about what you're saying. It's you don't have to pick through a lot of metaphors to kind of get what you mean with the songs. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it ties into what I was saying before about how I really appreciate songwriting where you can imagine what's happening. And I think that, yeah, when I reflect on a lot of my favorite albums, there's not a lot of metaphors. There's almost no cliche metaphors, and there's a lot of beautiful descriptions of kind of suburban or mundane situations and finding beauty in that. So that's kind of the approach I try to take.
Very quickly, can you name one of those albums? One of your favorites?
Yeah, Pure Heroine by Lorde.
Fair enough. Finally, then, I want to talk about one song that I found really interesting. I'm Not My Body, It's Mine, which is more of an acoustic approach in terms of the sonic quality. What was your intention with that song? How did that come about? Was there a line first? Did you kind of have a vision of how it would sound?
Yeah, so that one was produced by Leroy Clampett, who also did my song Charlie.
Okay.
And he is from New Zealand, and I loved going to his studio and working on music with him. And something that we really bonded over was a love of country music. And I think we had been talking about that a lot. So we were like, let's try and make a country song, or like, let's do some like country guitars and kind of folky harmonies. So that's how that started, with that idea. And then when I was writing, I was kind of imagining a movie in my head, not a specific movie, but I was just looking at the song like a movie trailer almost, or something like that. And then, yeah, I'm really proud of that song because it started with that idea we had, and then it turns into this like crazy auto-tuned vocal with this like almost Arabic kind of auto-tuned melody at the end. And I've never written any melodies like that before. And yeah, I think it's an incredible switch in feelings.
And you say you just mentioned you have a couple of guitars in your studio. So any ambition to learn to play them?
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. I was like, it's just so annoying because no matter how much I practice and I practice, and then I'm like, I'm not getting any better. Like, why can't I play in time? But yeah, I should practice. My friend was telling me about this tuning that might be a little easier for me. It was called like Dad Fad or something. And it's like a lot of Beaver Doobie songs, I think, are written with that tuning. So I'm keen to give that a go when I get home. But harp guitar, I did play guitar on that, but it's just
Okay.
3 notes that I fed through like this really hectic distortion.
Still.
Yeah, it still counts.
One last thing, because you mentioned something which is interesting. You mentioned kind of envisioning a trailer, so to say, with that song, and now you also mentioned kind of the storytelling aspect of lyric writing, and then that you can envision kind of visual images with it. So is that what you have when you write a song? Do you always have kind of a visual thing going along with it, a story, or like, as you mentioned, a movie trailer type thing?
I'm reluctant to say always.
Okay.
Sometimes I look at it like that, but sometimes it's a really hard one to pinpoint because the process is so different every time and every song ends up so different. But yeah, sometimes it's very visual, or sometimes more so for production, it's like shapes rather than a movie. But then other times it's just the way the words sound together is the kind of main part of the process.
Okay.
And I piece it in around that. And then, yeah, it's like, it's so different every time.
Have you started writing for the next one already?
No, not yet. I am really excited to when I get home from tour. We have a couple of months without shows. So I'm trying to organize sessions at the moment. But also, I just lost my computer. So I have to start from scratch.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's kind of okay because it's like on my computer, I had about 5 ideas that I really liked, but I've been working on them for so long that they were a bit stale. So if I can rescue any of them, then I'll keep working on them. If I can't, I'll just move on with my life.
At least you'll have a blank canvas then, which can be very interesting as well.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Grace, thank you so much for taking the time. I wish you all the best in the UK at the moment, and then yeah, can't wait to see what you come up with in those 3 months.
Thank you. It was so nice to talk to you.